Errol Spence shouldn't return to 147 after fighting Keith Thurman at 54, says Bozy Ennis. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. All right, so Bozy Ennis thinks that Errol Spence shouldn't return to 147 pounds after his fight with Keith One Time Thurman at 54. And I just wanted to break down, get my thoughts on what Bozy had to say. He basically was saying that Errol Spence most likely can't make the weight anymore. And when you can't make the weight comfortably anymore, then it becomes a danger to your career. And the main person he pointed to make his point was Roy Jones, and how weight kind of prematurely ended Roy Jones Jr. career. And, I would have to agree, because I've said in the past that going up in weight and then coming back down too quickly is a detriment to any athlete, because your body is kind of like a regulatory system. Once you start doing something regularly, your body's going to adapt to that, and it's going to perform off of what you do on a regular basis. And when you start throwing in different things like going up in weight and taking in way too many calories that your body really can't handle, then your body's going to start to have adverse effects. Like when an athlete wants to bulk up and then they start adding in way more calories than they can actually handle, what usually happens to that athlete? He starts throwing up, most of the time. He'll start upchucking a lot of those calories until his body becomes used to it. Now, some people's body can handle it, and some people's body, they have adverse effects from doing that. And then you got boxers who normally they go up and down in weight very often. When a fighter is getting ready for a fight, he's usually cutting weight, because most fighters, they don't fight at their walk around weight, which I've said in the past, that when you walk around at, let's say, 160, you're normally fighting 10 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds lighter than that. Because I think a lot of people and a lot of coaches feel like that makes you stronger at those lower weights, which is true, because if you can take the fat that you walk around with and convert it into muscle, then that mind state is true. You're going to be stronger than the person who's naturally that weight. But it can have an adverse effect if you start adding in extra stuff. Like, this is the reason why bodybuilders don't make good boxers, and bodybuilders don't make good combat sports fighters, period, like MMA and all that stuff, because normally they're bulking up all the time, and that bulk slows them down. And when you're in a combat sport, speed is normally what's going to win you most fights. Power is going to win you some fights, but being able to dodge punches and counter stuff is what's going to most of the time win you fights. So when you're a bodybuilder, you're very stationary, and that's going to have an adverse effect in combat sports. So I have to agree with Bozy Ennis when he says that, going up in weight, being a bigger fighter, and then coming back down, and your body not being regulated to that weight just yet when you're doing it really quickly can extremely affect your career. And Roy Jones is one of the prime examples of that. What it did to Roy's career when he went up to heavyweight and then came back down to lightweight. He didn't move the same. He wasn't the same fighter. I totally agree with Bozy Ennis. I think that Errol Spence, if he moves up, it should be a gradual cut back down. I've said that before. If he's walking around at the moment at 160 and he's going to fight at 154, okay, you're going to lose that 6 pounds, and then you're going to go back down to 147. He's going to have to stay at 154 for a couple of weeks, get used to that, assimilate that, and then start dropping weight to go back down to 147. If he does it gradually, I don't mind Spence doing it. I don't mind other athletes doing it. I don't think it's dangerous at that point. But if you're doing that abruptly, I think this is the reason he didn't want to fight Keith Thurman at 147, because he knew my weight has ballooned up to the point where I can't bring it completely back down to where it needs to be to fight at 147, doing it in an extreme manner, and that's dangerous for a fighter, So it's the same thing for Keith Thurman. You got to wonder why doesn't Keith go back down to 147? It's because at this point in his career, he can't make that weight without his body giving him some type of adverse effect. And he's probably figured that out during sparring and this 2-3 years he's been away from the ring, that 3 years and he couldn't make the weight. So obviously it's detrimental to him at this point in his career. Will Errol Spence remain at that weight? Bozy Ennis was thinking that he should remain and just drop the titles. And to be honest, I think he was saying that basically because Boots would be the recipient of some of that, if Errol Spence was to go that route. So I think some of what Bozy was saying is based off the truth, and him saying that Errol should remain at that weight, I think is just kind of like a hopeful for him and Boots, that Errol doesn't decide to come back down and just stays there, and Boots can kind of become the beneficiary of Errol dropping some titles. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me, share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More likely to get a response on the tube. Holler at me over there. Hit my Gmail if you want to collabo. flockofcars@gmail.com. And we are out of here.
Flow sick when I flow quick. Better go get your whole click. Spotless who you rolling with. I done told the chick you don't want have to hold your lip, so hold your lip. Now roll your hip. Spotless team, coldest click. Roll that shit, blow that shit. Keys that nigga with the gold that spit off the chain. Tossing flames, caution dames. Let her know. Can't put a chick on a pedestal. Don't think niggas is ready for who it be. Lewis Keys, take a chick and bruise her knees. Guarantee you lose to me. Niggas ain't confusing me. Just keep it real with me. I get the feel with me. I'm looking real spiffy. Kicks worth about a bill 60. Back in the day, I used to stay low. They used to pass the blunt. I used to say no. But now I'm smoking reefer. And now I'm drinking liquor. And now I'm in the telly. And now I'm taking pictures. We got them millimeters. We got them VHS's. So when we zoom in, you can see they my niggas. What? 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 The ladies. 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 Sick with the freestyle, call them the green mile. Getting money for blocks. What y'all think about me now? Gotta keep my head in the cloud.